Hey there, it's Mario here, and in this video I decided to share with you my favorite 3 tools that will help you burn fat faster. And I'm gonna make a little disclaimer here. These tools worked for me. That doesn't mean that they will work for you, so you wanna try them out. This is not an exact science. These are things that you wanna experiment with, and I'm the kind of person that once I've mastered the fundamentals, which we're gonna go into a little bit as well, I seek the extra edge. I seek the extra. I want to see what else can I do. Even though it might not be backed up by 100% of concrete science, I still want to try it out and see if it works for me. So, I mean, the fundamentals. If you watch this channel, if you watch any of the videos, you know that I'm pretty big on that. And things like calorie deficit. You have to be in a calorie deficit to lose body fat, at least to optimize the fat loss process, as well as hitting your daily protein amount, tracking those calories in your macros to make sure that you're staying in your calorie deficit, getting enough water, eating your veggies and your fruits, getting plenty of sleep. 8+ hours is definitely recommended if you're doing strength training, which is also recommended if your goal is fat loss to preserve muscle mass and getting those weights up over time. Potentially doing some cardio here and there might be helpful. Those are the fundamentals. So what do you do when you master these things? What is the kind of the tools that you can try out, that you can experiment with? And my favorite tool number 1 that I want to point out here is the protein sparing modified fast. What is the protein sparing modified fast? Well, look, let's say you're in a calorie deficit and you've calculated that you're going to eat about 2,200 calories every day. That is, let's say, a 500 calorie deficit every day. That is across the week. It's a linear deficit. And what happens if you do one day at 1,000 calories? Have you ever thought of that? Well, that you can do in a protein sparing modified fast fashion. So let's say in my example, I do a Sunday, which is my rest day. I eat only 1,000 calories. And in those 1,000 calories, I make sure that I hit my daily protein amount, and all those extra calories, which is about 400 left out of 1,000 because I eat about 150 grams of protein. Everything else comes from dark, leafy in general veggies, which are very, very low calorie, very filling, and I feel like I'm not as hungry when I add so much of food when I have so much food on my plate, and in general when I eat so much food for that day. And this protein sparing modified fast is no magic. There's some science behind this, in clinical trials, but there's not a lot of research out there saying that it's some kind of a magic pill. There's no such thing. But what it does do is actually create so much of that calorie deficit, which can make the diet easier for the rest of the days, because for the rest of the days I can add more calories. I did only 1,000 calories on this day. That means that I have an extra buffer which I can use for the other days of the week. It's such a powerful tool that I don't see a lot of people using. And if you do get your protein amount, and if you do get your veggies, you're not gonna feel hungry, and with the protein you're also not gonna lose any muscle mass. And it does seem to help in some ways to stick to the diet better, because you feel like you're only dieting hardcore for that one day of the week, and the rest of the days aren't as bad when you have those extra calories. And in general, for this day, I don't recommend using any protein powders to hit your protein, because you definitely need that solid food for satiety reasons, as well as I don't recommend eating any starchy foods, no cooking oil, pretty much bland, low-fat protein sources such as, lean chicken breast and things like that really have absolutely no fat on it, because you want to keep it low carb, low fat, high protein. That will allow you to plow through that day, and you will create that extra buffer to be used and to spread around the rest of the week. So experiment with the protein sparing modified fast. See if it works for you. Maybe you find a new tool that you might use and it might work really well. So the second tool that I want to point out here is switching from a seated position to a standing desk position. So this is something that for me personally, because I spend so much time at a computer, it makes a huge difference. And a lot of people, we sit down a lot, and we sit 12, 14 hours a day at a computer, and we don't even think about that. What is that doing to our health? Things like affecting our posture in a negative way. For me personally, I have a lot of shoulder issues when I sit down a lot. I feel like my lower back is getting some problems. And I think that for most people, if you really are aware of these signals, you're going to notice all those negative effects of just being in that seated position. So what I do is I switch from that seated to a standing position. And when I first started this, I could only do about 20% of the time in a standing position, because it is actually a transition period. You just can't do this from day one. You actually have to baby step it. So eventually you get from like a 10% ratio of standing potentially to 20, maybe 30, 40, and then 50-50, basically half of the time you're standing, half of the time you're seated, and you kind of alternate these two. And it does seem to work well, not just for an extra calorie expenditure, because you will earn, let's say 4 hours of standing will get you about an extra 120 calories. I mean, it's not a lot, but it does help with the diet. But the better thing that, the thing that I really focus on is that I get better focus. I get better productivity. I feel like I'm moving around more. I feel more active. I feel like I'm less hungry when I'm standing compared to when I'm sitting down. Because when I'm sitting down, time flies really fast and I end up looking like Quasimodo after a couple of hours. I just get in that flow state, I'm editing videos, I'm doing things, and I forget about kind of my health, my posture, all these things. And I feel like that standing position has changed my life in a positive direction. I feel more healthy, more alert, more ready. I'm getting more stuff done, which means that I have more free time. And I think that there's a whole array of benefits when you come to that standing position that is often underutilized in today's world, especially, if you're living in a Western country, there's really no excuse not to try this out, because there's so many options that you can try out. Even a treadmill desk, you can add an enormous amount of calories expanded if you just switch to a standing desk, and if you put it for, let's say, you're walking at a speed of like 1 mile per hour. You won't even notice that you're walking. You're gonna get so many calories expended for that day. So definitely try this out. This is one of my favorite tools, and I figured that it might help you guys as well once especially if you're in that kind of geeky mode. Maybe you're a software developer, maybe you work in a company, and you wanna kind of push in that direction where you switch to a standing position. The third final tool that I wanna mention here is doing a form of protein overfeeding. And the protein overfeeding is very interesting actually as a concept, because high protein diets across the board, there's so much research to support that they're beneficial for fat loss, they're beneficial for weight in general if you want to lose weight. And when they look at the studies, if you increase the protein amount in a diet, people automatically start losing weight because they feel fuller, they feel like they need to eat less food, and that's one huge benefit of protein. But the way I like to use this is when I feel that let's say my diet is, the amount of food that I'm consuming isn't that much, I might add on my rest days, for example, when I'm going lower in calories, typically, I might add a very high amount of protein. So I'm gonna go up to 220 grams of protein in that day. And I feel like that just that sheer bulk of food and just that enormous amount of food that I'm eating helps me stick to that deficit better and makes me crave less, because I feel like I crave more for these junky foods and these processed foods on my rest day than on my training. And on my training day, I'm thinking, well, I don't want to ruin the training day by eating some junk. But on the rest day, I feel like I'm more tempted to eat foods at night and I'm craving and all these things. So I feel like when I add that high protein amount, those cravings just tend to disappear. There's some research that protein does basically reduce that levels of ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, as well as does boost some of those appetite suppressing hormones, which can help us stick to the diet. In general, protein, has a very, very high thermic effect, basically about 30%. So it means 100 calories of protein, you get only about 70 usable calories in general when you calculate. Of course, the effects of high protein overfeeding, and there's a lot of good research on this, and it does seem to help. Again, you want to experiment and see if it works for you. Some people don't like it. Some people don't even need to do this. This is just another tool that you can have in your toolbox to experiment, to try out. And I do use it on my rest days and from time to time, and I do see some improvements in my satiety levels. So try it out. See if it works for you. And same applies for the first two tools. Try out the protein sparing modify fast. What do you got to lose? Try it out. Look at it as a challenge. The standing desk, try it out. Don't go standing 10 hours from day one, but see if you can stand for like 5 minutes, and then for an hour you can continue sitting down. Experiment. That's the big point of this as well. There's no magical solution, but there are certain things that might help you, and that is what I wanted to share with you in this video. Let me know in the comments below which one of these three is the most appealing to you, and which one would you want to try out. So let me know in the comments below. As well, if you have any questions on any of these, make sure to hit that subscribe button below to support this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.